Hello? Oh, okay. Is everybody's microphone working? Because a lot of times I can't hear anybody.
Working.
Hello?
Working.
Okay. We'll call the meeting to order. I guess Kathy does a roll call?
I do.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. I know Chairman Hill is not in attendance tonight.
And Kathy, I
So
can't
we'll
hear you
start.
very well. Could you just move the microphone up to you?
Yes. Chairman Hill is not in attendance tonight. I'll begin the roll with Vice Chairman Barnett,
Yes, here.
Commissioner Langzum,
Here.
Commissioner Marlowe,
Here.
Commissioner Don,
Here.
and Commissioner Carter,
Here.
Trustee Schnall,
Here.
and Counsel Sullivan.
I'm here.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'll do the meeting notice statement. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the press in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-6. In addition, notice of this meeting was posted in the Village Hall and on the Village's website and has been filed in the office of the Village Clerk. Official action may be taken. So the first thing we have is approval of the December 16th meeting. Did everyone get a chance to look at that?
Yes.
Yes.
I do note your name is spelled wrong.
Yes, I saw that too. Barnett with an A. It's spelled correctly everywhere else, so. Any other changes to the minutes? Can I hear a motion that the minutes be approved?
I'd like to move that the minutes be approved for December 16th minutes.
I'd like to second it.
Thank you. All right, on to hearing of applications. So, 14 Kingman Road. We will hear from the applicant.
Good evening. Lisa Hendricks Richardson, attorney for the applicants Luther and Hazel Turner on the application for a minor subdivision. This is my third visit. I'm glad to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And I believe I'm here again to having produced a more legible, having produced a legible and corrected deed, which indicates that there were no deed restrictions other than a short-term restriction of 25 years that concluded in the early 1900s, in 1906, I believe, or 1916. I could read page 152 for you verbatim.
Why don't you do that for the record?
Okay, on page 152 of the deed, which is the second page of the deed, it states that the building herein after referred to should not cost less than $6,000, that no building shall at any time within 25 years from March 14, 1891, be erected on the said land within 60 feet of the westerly line of what is now known as Stanley Road, or the easterly line of Kingman Road, in the northerly line of South Orange Avenue, and said premises shall not at any time within the period of 25 years from March 14, 1891, be used or occupied for the erection or maintenance of a building of any kind or description, excepting a dwelling house with its buildings and appurtenances appropriate for a gentleman's residence, etc. Going further down, for said term of 25 years be recognized, sustained, and upheld. And at the bottom of the same page, it states that they are not encumbered by any mortgage, judgment, or limitation, or by any encumbrances whatsoever. So the only deed restriction in this ancient deed was for 25 years with regard to a 60-foot setback restriction. And as indicated for the record, what was sent on January 8th, as I was preparing for tonight's hearing, I noticed, the first deed that I gave you was not legible, but looking at the lines and matching the lines with the legible deed, I realized the pages were not correct. So what I sent to Ms. Cameron is the corrective deed and the correct pagination. Just want to make sure the record was corrected.
Yes, I had a question about that, because the original deed that you provided was, on the first page, indicated that it was a property in Newark.
Well, that's what the deed says. Oh, I understand. You mean the first one I gave to you? Well, I just told you that's the incorrect deed.
Okay.
So,
And the chain of title between the deed that you gave us before, the next earliest deed was 1908,
Correct.
correct? So what happened to the deed that was in between this
All the
one,
deeds that you have in
1906?
title or chain deeds.
The complete chain?
Yep. You have this deed from Book G 41, 151, dated,
It is.
it was between,
It references each one. This is the next.
Right, but I thought that from the next earlier one said 1908, but maybe I'm not reading that correctly.
1906.
no, this deed was 1906. This is the correct deed between Bowers Fairchild Company to Andrew Deisler and his wife, Louisa. And then if you notice in the second deed, Louisa apparently, husband Andrew passed, she remarried. And that's
Okay.
referenced in that deed that she
Okay,
remarried.
I was just looking at this page here, and I thought it said 1908, but Commissioner Marlowe corrected me that it's 1906.
Yes, it has the page number, too.
Just a quick question. The purpose of reviewing this deed is what?
I believe the commissioner asked to see if there were any deed restrictions with regard to the lot size and the ability to subdivide the lot. And there's no apparent restriction to
Thank
that
you.
effect.
Is there any other new information or information to be reviewed on this case?
No, I do want my client to have an opportunity. I think there were some questions either you had, but I wanted to at least present Ms. Turner. Just ask her a couple of questions with regard to her application. And if you have any questions, she'll be able to answer them. But I know I gave, I believe, information at the first hearing and as well as the last hearing in December with regard to the application and why it was felt that this would not be contrary to the Historic Preservation Commission's purpose as well as the Montrose Park purpose. And in fact would enhance Montrose Park with regard to this particular property where it's situated.
Okay. The next witness,
Ms.
and
Turner. Ms. Turner? Somebody, does she have to be sworn in? Who does that? She's going to swear in.
I'm sorry?
Can you swear in? You want me to do it?
If you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Turner, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to provide is true to the best of your knowledge, so help you God?
I swear, yes.
Okay, Ms. Turner, are you the property owner of 14 Kingman Road?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
Along with my
you need to-
husband.
You need to
Excuse me, I
speak
can't
in the
hear you.
microphone.
My husband and I are the owners.
And how long have you owned the property?
Okay. Why don't you have, why don't one of you use one mic?
There are two.
Yeah, there's two mics.
yeah, and just, you guys hold it like you're singing, because you need to really hold it up to your face.
Eating an ice cream cone. You get it.
There you go.
How long have you owned the property?
Almost 27 years,
When you bought the property, was it your intention to subdivide it?
yes.
Did you make an application to subdivide this property?
Yes,
Did you make an application to subdivide your property into 2 lots?
yes, we did.
What is your intention for the proposed new lots?
We would like to build a one-family house there.
Is there anything else you'd like the commissioners to know at this time?
We plan to live in the house, the new house, and sell the one that is there now.
Do you have any questions of Ms. Turner?
I'm sorry, I missed that last statement.
We plan to reside in the house, the new house, and sell the
Right.
current house.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have for Ms. Turner.
How long, I'm sorry, when did you, I know it's in the deed, but how long did you say you've lived there?
10 years.
10
No,
years?
27 years.
Almost 27 years.
How many? I thought you said 20.
Almost 27
27?
years.
Thank you.
But we have lived in South Orange for 35 years.
Okay. 27 years.
Oh, boy. I didn't hear.
Thank you.
I have a question. You, Ms. Hendrickson, you asked that her intention was always to subdivide this property?
What her intentions were when she purchased the property in 1987. Can you repeat your answer, please?
Yes, we had planned to subdivide at some point.
Okay.
And what is the purpose of the subdivision?
Well, the house we're living in right now is large. We want to remain in South Orange, for one thing. The house we're in now is large for us now, and so we wanted to construct something that's smaller, that fits in with the neighborhood, but not as big as the one that we are, and more energy efficient.
I have a question for you. If this is approved, are you looking to have access to this house from South Orange Avenue?
Yes, it seems that that would be the more appropriate means of access.
So you'll not be looking for an easement through the other property?
No.
Okay.
And just note for the record that Carolyn is now with us.
Other questions?
Any other questions?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry? We're going to do that next.
Okay, I don't believe I need to summarize again. I think I summarized in both the November meeting and the December meeting. If you have any further questions about the application, I believe, again, that the application and my client's intent would enhance the Montrose Park Historic District as her property is currently situated off of South Orange Avenue. Right now, it's not apparent that it's a historic district, to be quite honest, and that's from my personal observation. So I welcome, your report. We will be going before the Central Planning Board. I would hope that this commission will seriously consider issuing a certificate of appropriateness. I don't know if you have a form of that document yet to review. And that's all I could say. If you have any further questions.
Let me just note that we have an opportunity for public comment, and we understand your summary. You may want to also summarize again after you hear public
Okay.
comment. So
All right.
just reserve the right for
So
that.
we'll wait, because
Yeah.
before we didn't have
Okay.
open comments. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So now we have opportunity for public comment. Sworn in or not sworn in?
He's going to provide some testimony. It should be sworn. It should be sworn.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Commission. My name is Jeremiah O'Leary. My wife, Jennifer, and I live at 18 Kingman Road.
Thank you. We do need to swear in?
I think we should swear you.
Yes, if Kathy, I'm sorry, Bill.
Mr. Leary, right?
Correct, sir.
Mr. Leary, do you?
O'Leary.
Sorry?
O'Leary?
O'Leary?
O'Leary.
O'Leary, I thought, okay. Mr. O'Leary, do you swear the testimony you're about to provide is truthful to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeremiah O'Leary. I live at 18 Kingman Road. along with my wife, Jennifer, and our 3 children. Our property is a key property, designated as a key property within the historic district of Montrose Park, and we vigorously oppose this application for several reasons. First, council has indicated to this commission that there is no negative impact from this application that would be visited upon the local community. We disagree with that. I'm not sure. I'd like to hear some of the specifics of it. I'm not sure if this is coming through.
Yeah, we were hearing you. We were hearing you.
She hasn't indicated any of the specifics of how it would not detract. All evidence from our observation as the adjacent property owner is that it would substantially impair the historic and cultural significance of the immediate neighborhood. Our property is immediately adjacent to the north of the property where this application is being made, and it's our view, and I think the view of the firm that did the study of the various houses within the district, of the historical significance and character of the district, that the size of the properties is an inherent characteristic of those properties. That is to say that when you look at the various unique architectural construct of each of the properties that comprise the Montrose area of South Orange, that the size of the properties is an inherent contributing characteristic. And when you start to subdivide those properties and build smaller houses, it has an impact on the overall appearance and characteristic of the community and the houses that surround it. And so, our view of this is that it's going to have a deleterious effect on the community at large, and certainly on all of the houses that are in the surrounding area, which have consistently large lots. And although council indicates that it would have no negative impact from the vantage point of South Orange Avenue, although I disagree with that, it certainly would have a negative impact from the vantage point of every other avenue that intersects perpendicularly to South Orange Avenue, in particular Kingman Road, which is the street where we live. And we haven't seen any just cause for justifying this subdivision. And we don't think that it would contribute in any way. In fact, it would detract substantially from the historic significance and cultural value of the overall area. So unless the committee has any questions, I just want to go on record as saying that we oppose it. I can't speak, obviously, on any of the code issues implicated and whether there's any variances that are required. That, I assume, is for the appropriate authority within South Orange. But I can say as an adjacent property owner that our view is that it would have a significant adverse effect on the overall cultural significance of not only our property but the neighborhood in general. Unless the commission has any questions, I appreciate the commission's time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Any other public comment?
Now she can sum up.
I'm not aware if Ms. O'Leary put on the record whether or not he saw the subdivision site plan or the proposed rendering of the home that Mr. and Mrs. Turner proposed.
He can't hear you.
Can't hear you again. All right.
Mr. O'Leary did put on the record whether or not he has seen the application, which included the proposed subdivision and the rendering of the building or home that the Turners intend to construct with regard to his comments about the deleterious effect this would have on his property. I did not indicate that there would be no negative impact. I simply said I believe that it would enhance the Montrose Historic District. We would be glad to share with Mr. O'Leary, if he hasn't yet seen it, the subdivision, and he would see that from the Kingman Road there is no impact, because the properties, the subdivision really affects behind Kingman Road on South, and then perpendicular to South Orange Avenue. Okay, so I want that on the record.
Okay, question for you. Was this rendering that you just mentioned?
I gave it to you at the November 16th hearing.
It was a plan.
There was
It was a
rendering.
plan, I didn't,
No, it wasn't a plan.
There was
It
a
wasn't
plan.
a
I
plan.
believe there was an
It was a
elevation.
one-page
I thought there was an
rendering.
elevation.
There was one elevation.
There's a
one
front elevation, yes.
Okay.
And as we indicated, the application is at this time for a minor subdivision. My client would be submitting in due time site plan for the actual construction or design of the building, at which time she would have an architect do the full plans that would be submitted at the appropriate time. But we provide you with a rendering of a possible exterior of the building to show that it would be in conformity with the design element for this historic district.
What representation can you make to the board, to the commission, that the structure as shown in the rendering will be, what relationship will it have to what you actually propose? In other words, one of the difficulties I think that the commission has in the subdivision application is that, as you know, you're not obligated to provide architectural plans even before the planning board at this point. On the other hand, the commission has the obligation to try to figure out whether what you build there is going to be consistent with what's in the district. So it kind of puts us in an unusual position. Are you able to tell us that it's going to be, substantially similar? Or is it going to be the same type of house by the same builder? Or what can you tell us on that?
Did you hear the question about the?
Will you please repeat the question?
All right. I think I've got the right document here. You provided us with a document that's entitled Hazel Turner, South Orange, New Jersey, Essex County. The description is architectural elevations. It isn't signed or dated by anybody, and it has page A4 on it. Maybe, and Ms. Richardson, maybe you did this the last time, I'm not sure, but can you give us some testimony about where this came from, who drew it, and what it depicts?
This was done by a designer, property designer. It'll be similar to this, possibly a little bit smaller.
Who prepared it?
Everman.
I'm sorry, who prepared it?
Everman Designs there in Texas, but I'm not sure that business is still open at this time.
When was the drawing done?
The drawing was done maybe about 3 years ago.
Was this a design, was this a plan that was prepared based upon your instructions of what you
Yes.
wanted, or is this a model that you selected from other models?
It was a model, but with some adjustments.
Okay.
And I'm just curious how an architect from Texas would know what would be appropriate for a historic district in New Jersey.
That's a technical question.
Exactly.
Any architect that would work in New Jersey would have to be.
Can't hear you.
As you know, an architect who would practice in New Jersey would either have to be licensed or be in partnership with a licensed New Jersey architect to.
You mean the architect from Texas would have to work with somebody from New Jersey?
Yeah.
To provide a drawing?
Yeah,
The
to be
plans,
submitted to the plan- for the building board.
architectural plans to
Yes.
go before the planning board.
Right.
They would have to submit floor plans, site plans, and then also the elements, and upon approval, construction drawings. which would have to conform with local ordinance, state ordinance.
Okay, so this, just to summarize, this is an elevation from an architect from Texas who may no longer be in business.
Yes.
So it may not actually be what you would actually be building.
Well, it probably wouldn't come from his office. But in there, I mean, I could just direct any architect to do, what I want to do, what we want to do, however we want to construct the building.
And
It will conform with what we have in the neighborhood.
so what are your plans to make this home appear architecturally similar to the neighborhood?
One plans.
Right, how are you planning to make this home fit in with the neighborhood?
Again, that's a technical question.
I guess maybe what architectural style?
Right, or features?
Or materials.
Yes, please. Technical, as you said.
It's a technical question. The Village of South Orange and in my reading of the ordinance provides for design elements that any new developer or contractor would have to follow. The architect, based on their expertise and professional, would look around the neighborhood or look into this community. As you know, Montrose has several different architectural styles. So basically, it's picking one that would work in that particular immediate vicinity. I noted that Mrs. Turner's property, I believe the O'Leary's property, they have vinyl siding. I'm sure that's not the, the first exterior protection for those historic properties. So, again, I believe that's a technical question. They would be guided by the architectural design elements that are provided by this town. And then it has to go before the planning board. And I'm sure because it's in the district, it'll probably come before this commission again as to the design.
No, actually it wouldn't.
It
No.
won't? I mean, my reading of the ordinance is that this commission also looks at when people want to put on additions or improvements on their property as to the exterior.
It depends upon the size of the improvement, but in this case, what will happen here is that depending upon the outcome of this application, then the planning board will make a decision on the subdivision. At that point, if this board were to grant a certificate of appropriateness and the planning board were to grant subdivision approval, no further municipal approval would be required other than the building permits. That's why I think the commission's asking the question about what level of assurance can the commission have that the house that is built will look like this or maybe not look like this, because this will probably be the only time anybody from the commission will have any say in what it looks like.
Okay, well, that's not my understanding. Reading, again, the Montrose or the Historic Preservation application or proposal that was submitted, there seemed to be quite a bit of emphasis on complying with architectural design elements. And I guess either this commission or the city itself or the planning board or in their ordinances defining what that design element is.
Well, I think that's why we're asking the questions now. You have to understand that there were other applications that will come before this board purely where the board will only be offering advice to the planning board. And in those cases, they'll be looking at all of these issues and then writing a report that's not a yes or no decision, but is simply advice to the board. This, because it's a subdivision, requires the board to issue a certificate of appropriateness, which is a predicate to the planning board's completeness determination. So that's where we are right now. And you're right that one of the elements is architecture. The problem is, as I said before, is that because this is a subdivision application and not a site plan or a demolition application, you ordinarily wouldn't have a lot of architectural information available to you at this point. The problem from our perspective is we need to know that some information about whether or not, when this is all said and done, this structure will meet the statutory or the ordinance criteria.
Yes, it will. You wanted to know if it will meet the statutory what?
I'm sorry?
Chairman Burnett, may I ask a question to follow? Sort of follow
Let
up?
me ask Ms. Turner. Ms. Turner, is your intention that this new construction meet the architectural design elements that are indicated in some of the literature surrounding, prepared by the Historic Commission? Is it your-
Yes. We'll be careful to follow whatever directions are there.
Mr. Chair. You had mentioned that you were considering it would look like that or perhaps something smaller. Can you share with us how much smaller? What's your thoughts at this time? You mentioned one of your motivations is to downsize. Can you describe?
I think my current property now is 3,200 square feet.
How many square feet? I'm sorry.
3,200, I believe it is, or 3,500 square feet.
And is
It'll
that-
be considerably less. I say maybe no more than between about 2,000, maybe a little over 2,000.
Around
maybe.
2,000 square feet for the new dwelling.
Yes, I would say yes.
Thank you.
And are there similarly smaller dwellings within your community?
Oh, yes. Several properties, even on our street.
Are they new construction or are they
Well, I
older?
know one of them is relatively new. One of them is about maybe 5 years, 5, 6 years on my street, on our street.
Any other questions? Any other comment?
Me, no, unless I'm asked a question, no.
Okay.
I guess I did have a question. So do you know the style of your house? Are you trying to build a Victorian? Are you trying to build a style of Victorian architecture?
No, I don't want to commit right now,
Okay.
but at any rate, there's so many different styles in the neighborhood, it'll fit right in,
Okay.
in the historical district.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not really. Okay, you can, limited to that, please. We really don't usually do back and forth, so.
Very briefly, council had represented a question as to whether or not, again, my name is Jeremiah O'Leary, I had reviewed the renderings. I have, in fact, reviewed the renderings that are for the proposed property, and the renderings obviously don't provide any architectural detail, but they do indicate that the frontage along South Orange Avenue is significantly smaller than the frontage along Kingman Road. And although the proposed entranceway is along South Orange Avenue, again, the property directly abuts our property, and it is significantly smaller than all of the surrounding properties. And I know of no property on Kingman Road or the adjacent road on Montrose or on Hamilton that is as small as the proposed property here. And again, it would be a major change in the size. Not to mention the fact that there's absolutely no detail that's been provided as to what is going to be erected, what's it going to look like, and I'm not sure how this committee can issue a certificate of appropriateness without knowing what's going to be on the property, let alone what the size and dimensions of the subdivision are going to be, but what's going to go there. And how this committee can do that in a vacuum is beyond me without any architectural detail. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, the commission will discuss.
Right. Oh, there's somebody else, sure.
Hi. And this is, sorry, you'll introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Maureen Gammon. I'm currently president of Montrose Park Historic District Association.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, maybe, let's see,
Maureen Gammon,
better.
currently
Ms. Gammon,
president.
Can we swear you in, please?
Yes,
All right. Do you swear to tell the whole truth, but the truth, so help you God?
I do. I'm currently
Maureen Gammon?
Maureen Gammon. I'm currently president of Montrose Park Historic District Association. However, I am actually speaking here as a resident, private resident of Montrose Park. I did request an OPRA documents for this proposal, and looking at the plot plan, I realize the frontage in terms of South Orange Avenue meets the premise. However, my grave concern is the location of the building, which looks to me practically adjacent and looking in the windows of the proposed residency. Now I've heard in this current meeting that the proposal is to sell the existing home. I think this proposed new premise will definitely detract from the existing building. If you look at where the building is proposed, it's very, very close to the existing building and is actually very close to the O'Leary's residence. If you look at the backyard, I don't know if there's any provision for how big a backyard ought to be, but it's very minuscule for once the subdivision, if it were approved. The existing house has practically no backyard.
The existing house what?
The existing house with the proposed subdivision has virtually no back lot. And so the houses are basically within touching space. So to say that meets the conditions of Montrose Park, I think is far outside of that thought process.
Thank you.
I'm also concerned about a private entrance at the existing area in South Orange Avenue, people coming in and out. I don't know if they have applied for a curb cut there, but that seems to be a concern in terms of safety.
Okay. Thank you. Given we had more public comment, do we need anything else?
Anything else, Ms. Richardson? Okay. I just want to ask you one question. Can you just tell me, because I'm trying to find it, an answer to that question, what are the variances that you need from the planning board?
There's only one variance sought, and it's on the minor subdivision page, and that variance would be the minimum lot width corner off of South Orange Avenue. The code requires 140, wait, am I looking at it right? Requires 140 feet. There exists 216.37. What's being proposed is 116.56 on the proposed lot of 1.01 is where the house, the current improvement is situated. That's the only variance being sought. All of the side yards, rear yards, and front yards are conforming with the township's bulk ordinances.
Okay, so just maybe to clarify for the board's benefit, the only variance, just make sure the record is clear, the only variance that's required is that the new lot to be created on the corner of South Orange Avenue in Kingman is too narrow. 116 is proposed, whereas what is the requirement?
140 feet.
140, okay.
Well, it's both lots, because you're creating two undersized.
Well, the other lot is
corner.
conforming because the other lot would be...
It's 100.
would be 100, right.
Right, so both
Well,
lots
so
would be...
both lots would be too narrow then, right?
No.
Oh, because it's not a corner lot?
This is a corner lot, the
Because
width corner lot.
Okay.
Lot 102, where the proposed dwelling would be, is not a corner lot.
Right, okay. So if you're not a corner lot, then your minimum lot width is 100 feet?
It's not indicated on here. It's not indicated.
Okay, but your understanding...
And the other minimum lot width interior was required is 140, there's two variants, I'm sorry. It's 140 feet, and on the new lot, 1.02,
Yep.
it's 80 feet is being proposed.
It's what?
80 feet.
Oh, in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay. All right, so there's
And that's the width.
there's two variances, and again, variances are not the province of this board, but just because Ms. Gammon raised the issue, I just want to make sure the record is clear. You need two variances. One is because for the new lot on the corner of South Orange Avenue in Kingman, there's a minimum of 140 required, and you have 116.77. And on the other lot, it's narrower in the back than it is in the front, and you're providing 80 feet there.
And with regard to Ms. Gammon's concern about the size of the rear yard, currently the code requires 16 feet, and the proposed for lot 101, lot 1.01, which is the existing home, would be 27.34 feet, and for lot 102, which would be the new home, would be 30.66 feet. So it exceeds the code requirements.
Okay, I'm clear on the first variance, so it's 116 versus 140, the requirement. What was the second one?
The minimum lot width interior, and that what's required is 140 feet per code, was being proposed for lot 1.02, which would be the newer lot, is 80 feet.
So 80 versus 140?
Yes, on the width.
Because on South Orange Avenue, it's 100 feet wide, but when you go back, it's 80 feet wide, probably just because where the houses are located.
Oh, I see.
I think they're not drawing a straight line.
No, they're not. The lot line is angled in order to get the two houses.
And the minimum width was
140.
140, okay. So at one point, it's 80 versus 140, okay. Anything else? Okay, so we will close this
Public comment is closed.
Public comment is closed, open for discussion for the board.
And someone could make a motion, or they could just have discussion first and then make a motion, whatever your pleasure is.
Well, I do have some concerns. I think that the newly proposed structure looks nothing like any of the existing structures in Montrose Park. I think in regard to the size of the structure itself as well, that it is a much smaller structure than the houses in that area. Although the deed has a restriction that that said 25 years was the restriction, I think that the original intent of the developer is a single-family house, and that Montrose Park as a whole does have a characteristic of the larger size lots with single-family homes. So I think that this would definitely change the visual aesthetic and the density of the housing in the area, as well as the character and visuals.
Well, one of the things that I noticed was that when you take the setbacks that are proposed, the minimum setbacks required on lot 1.02, it gives you an area to build that's 65 feet wide and 70 feet deep. So if they're talking about building a 2,000 or 20, a little bit more house, and it's going to be looking from this elevation 2 stories high, then, or 2.5 stories high, then they're talking about building a house that's somewhere with a footprint of, 1,000 to 1,200 square feet. Yet the area that they can build on is, probably close to the 4,500 square feet. So my concern is where that house would be situated on that property. Because I think where it's situated would make a big difference to its appearance to South Orange Avenue and its appearance on Kingman Road.
I mean, I think the setbacks dictate where it can be, right?
Right. But this is, if you take 65 by 70, and that's like over 4,000 square feet of an area that it could be in.
Okay.
So if they pulled it, the house would look different on the lot if it was built right to the 50-yard front setback versus if it was built all the way up against the 30-foot rear yard setback.
Got it.
So I think that's a concern of mine, is actually how this house would be situated on the property.
Can we, if we were to approve this, issue a certificate of appropriateness, would we be able?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
If we were to issue a certificate of appropriateness for this subdivision, would we be able to put anything in the resolution which specified that the building would have to maintain a certain character that's appropriate with the district?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other commentary?
I just have a question. I know that they mentioned that there are some new properties on Kingman Road also that have been built within the last number of years, and I'm just wondering, it was before the commission, the Historic Preservation Commission was established, but I wondered in terms of, were there any constraints just building a new property in a neighborhood that was already designated on the National Historic Registry? Was there any kind of?
I don't know about past development. I do know that there is a new home on Kingman that was built on a lot that was an existing empty lot that was owned by an owner, and it's built in a Victorian style. I assume it must have met whatever requirements were met at that time.
Any other comments or questions or discussion? I would like to say one thing, and I had raised this, I believe, in November. It's my concern for impervious coverage, because I think while the house can be a certain, for South Orange, we have impervious coverage, which is house, pavement, accessory structures, pool, all of those count as impervious coverage. And when the lot size becomes much smaller, there's a lot less that can be done with impervious coverage. So in terms of the lot size, regardless of whether or not it meets, or even if it meets the zoning criteria, it does limit what the size, what can go on a property. So, as an example, this would be potentially creating a property which I would find it difficult to be able to put a sizable outdoor patio or pool, as just an example. Does anyone have a motion? Would anybody like to raise a motion?
Or I'd like to propose a motion to deny the certificate of appropriateness at this time.
Okay, we have a motion to deny the certificate of appropriateness. Do we have a second? So Carolyn?
Third. It's me.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we bring this to a vote? We need a roll call. Not a roll call for the vote.
A yes vote is a vote to deny.
A yes vote is a vote to deny.
Okay, starting with Vice Chairman Barnett,
Yes.
Commissioner Langzon,
Yes.
Commissioner Marlowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Don,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
and alternate Commissioner Mon.
Yes.
Okay, we have a unanimous yes vote to deny their certificate of appropriateness.
So now I'll prepare a resolution to that effect, which will be adopted at the next meeting for your approval. Okay?
Okay. New business? Anyone have any new business?
I'd like to just share that Commissioner Marlowe and I were forwarded correspondence from a person who I don't know if she ever actually lived in Montrose Park, but has done some research about photographs, and her relative was was part of the HELP, in a house on Montrose Avenue, and she submitted some beautiful pictures for our review and wanted to know if there were any documents that were available to her, and I was able to show her a picture of the footprint of the house from an atlas that I own personally, but our secretary, Kathy Cameron, correctly and very appropriately indicated to her that she could do research at the Hall of Records in Newark and through other local agencies, and we also referred her to Seton Hall's archivist. So I'm just going to pass around the photos if you'd like to see them.
Thank you.
Nice hat.
Apparently, they were Danish, right? I
think so.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very, very interesting correspondence.
Thank you. Any other new business? Okay, on to discussion.
Swedish, sorry, Swedish.
Like me.
I'm sorry?
The person was Swedish.
On to discussion topic 1, Crown Castle Cardno, and I believe we have in tonight's handouts, I believe we have a handout for Cardno, right?
Yes, there's a draft letter. I think that,
This. Do you have this?
Yes.
I don't have that. I don't have that, unless it's here.
Amy, can you
I'll speak to this. Chairman Hill suggested that the commission may write a letter to Cardno in regard to our opinion about the proposed cellular tower that would go into Montrose Park near 292 Terrell Avenue. So I drafted the letter, which I passed by Vice Chair Barnett, Chairman Hill, our attorney, and also Kathy Cameron, who forwarded it to the village attorney. And he provided, the village attorney, Mr. Rother, provided additional comments. So I just wanted to share his email with you all. He said that the subject pole at Terrell and Grove was part of a larger legal action brought by Crown Castle, and that litigation was focused mainly on attempts to place antenna in residential rear yards, but also included utility poles along streets. Federal law does not permit municipalities to discriminate against utilities, and Crown Castle, being a utility, could co-locate on an existing utility pole. The desire of locating in residential rear yards was another matter. As a consequence, the village recently settled with Crown Castle, which that settlement prohibits rear yard locations, but did permit the antenna at Terrell and Grove, which was the one we were noticed about in the letter. But he did note that that we could give an opinion about whether we felt that the antenna could be placed there, but at this point, the village cannot deny them that. Okay? So therefore, I drafted this letter. Should I read it?
We all have it. We all have copies. What are the next steps for this?
Well, I think that if we wish to move forward with this letter would basically be making a statement to the New Jersey State Historic Preservation Office that we disagree with the location and installation of this pole. I don't know how much we can prevent it because the village can't prevent it at this time, but we can still state our opinion.
So it's like advisory?
It's like a public comment letter, but it's from, a body that has historic preservation qualifications.
So this letter is addressed to Crown Castle. Would it would also go to, it goes to
Yes,
Shipper. Yes,
the
okay.
village attorney, Steve Rother, indicated, or I think you indicated, our attorney indicated that the letter should be addressed to Crown Castle and that we should then copy appropriate officials. So I thought it would be important to copy the village president and trustees, our attorney, Steve Rother, and also the FCC and the DEP, because they're involved with those approvals.
It's kind of an odd procedure, but what you're supposed to do is file your comments with the applicant, and the applicant is supposed to then gather them all and send them to the state. Being the cynical, cautious person that I am, I would also CC the state.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so I need to add another. Oh, I did, okay.
Copy the statement.
Right.
I also, I
Yeah.
like the letter. I think the last sentence just needs to be tweaked a little bit if you read it.
Okay, sure. Any suggestions?
Well, it just reads that the commissioners of the South Orange Historic Preservation Commissioners agree that.
Whoops.
You have two commissioners.
Yes, Commissioner.
The commissioners of the House
Oh,
Historic
yes.
Preservation Commission
Preservation.
agree. So if we get rid of the second commissioners, I think it will be fine.
Oh, I
Yes.
see. Right, I see.
Very good. Good
I
catch.
believe it reads English then, but
I was wondering why it didn't make sense to me.
Now it
I looked
makes
at it
sense.
like,
Now it's fine.
It's always
Okay.
better to read aloud. And then I did copy also the two local historic preservation associations. So this would come from our commissioner, chair, Gary Hill.
Mr. Silver is part of Crown Castle,
Yes, the letter to us came from him.
so he's an archaeologist, cultural resource specialist who wants to put up some town.
That was his title.
that's the title. They have people that do that. That's just what they do. The application said that.
Okay.
Looks good to me.
Okay.
So we have to approve, does this have to be approved, the letter?
Motion to.
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
The letter is written to David Silver,
Oh, and you're right, it should
and
say
then
Mr.
it should be
Silver.
Dear Mr. Silver. Is that correct?
You're right.
I'm just confused a little bit.
You're good. This is why we
It's a
need to
form
edit.
letter.
Okay, as long as I just...
I think I originally had it addressed to somebody else,
Or is it
obviously.
David Smith?
Where's the original letter?
I don't...
Hold on.
Hold on, I have that here
I have it here.
somewhere.
David Silver.
Silver.
David
It
Silver.
is Silver.
It is Silver, okay.
Oh, but it was
Oh,
addressed.
that's
yeah.
why the letter was originally
It
to
went to
us.
Chanel Smith.
What?
She
Our-
just copied the salutation. It says Ms. Smith.
Okay.
Just got a little confusing.
I have one more question, Commissioner Donovan. You stated in point number 3 that there's excellent cell service in the area. How did we determine that?
I've just have never had a problem in that area.
Oh, it
I've
is.
never heard anybody else had a problem in that area.
Should we put anecdotally?
If you want me to take that out, I can take it out.
Well, I think perhaps it's better stated that no problem with service has been reported.
Can we put anecdotally?
Maybe there hasn't been any official, I'm trying to think. I mean, and the service is relative to the company, so if there's no reception problems for this company's service or any services. I mean,
They're probably a co-locator.
But we don't know if anybody's reported service problems, though.
You're right, Commissioner. Each cell only works for that company. So if you're a Verizon customer, it doesn't make a difference whether you have an AT&T.
Right.
So this is for the new company.
Right.
They actually want to install so they can actually have good
There is no
service. in that
service.
area.
There is no service now for that carrier.
Right.
Right?
There's no
okay.
service to
Okay,
that
so-
area?
Yeah.
From this
familiar with
company,
that.
probably.
It's a small.
so I think we should strike that. Because
strike
this-
that.
this would be relative to
Okay.
AT&T or Verizon, but not this new carrier.
Okay.
Motion to authorize Gary to sign the letter.
A motion to authorize that Gary assign the letter.
To sign the letter.
To sign the
With
letter.
edits.
With those amendments.
As amended. I make a motion to have Gary sign the letter as amended.
I second it.
Great. Moving on to a discussion. Oh,
Do we have to have a roll
all in,
call?
sorry, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'll make those edits and forward those to you, Kathy.
Moving on to discussion number 2, application addenda, and these are also with us tonight. And who prepared these?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay. Do you want to speak to these?
Yeah, real briefly, and maybe this, the way to do this, rather than the meeting, it's up to you, Mr. Chairman, but you people can comment later. But this, as you may remember, arose out of the fact that because we're a new organization, because we don't have forms and procedures, and we're just, getting ourselves organized, I think Jeffrey and some others had prepared the addendum for demolition, which was in the packet, but we didn't have really checklists for a subdivision application or for those instances in which an application is here because it's been referred to us by the Planning Board or Zoning Board of Adjustment for non-binding advice. So I took the demolition addendum and some of the other comments that we had. We had a committee meeting, Amy and Gary and I sat around and worked with and came up with lists, and we came up with these two documents. So this is what I would suggest, that when somebody approaches Kathy or something comes from the planning board, that these are the documents that would be given to them based upon whatever their application is.
I think they look pretty good, but I do have two, well, one correction and one suggestion.
Okay.
On number 8, I think that should be, if not occupied, on both,
You're right.
yeah, on both forms.
You're right.
I have a question, more of a proactive question. Do we need to have a major, facade change addendum as well?
I think
Because
so.
we do have regulatory power on that as well also.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That way we have one for each.
I missed that one. You're right.
The other, and this may be just carried forward from the demolition permit, which was adopted the first day that I started on the committee. So on number 13, I would suggest that read, if applicable, provide the a copy of the pages, only because in the future we may not just be looking at the Montrose Park. There may be additional districts which come into play. So we don't want to limit ourselves to just that. We're looking at other districts doing the survey as we are charged with. So that's, I would just suggest that.
How are you, what's
Can we
the
take
wording?
Just put if applicable
If
in the front of
applicable.
number 13. Right now it would always be applicable, I guess,
Right.
right? But in the future, if you designate properties outside of Montrose, then it wouldn't be applicable.
Can we take these with us to review and then provide comments back to
Sure,
you?
absolutely.
If you do that wording, though, could somebody then think that this question is optional?
All right, how about if the property is located in the Montrose Park?
Yes.
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 That's good, yes.
Okay. I'd like to add to both of these forms that the notification rules for all property owners and the same notification rules as the demolition addendum.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'd like to add the notification list that's on the demo addendum.
That's number 14.
Yeah.
But- Oh, and agencies. Oh, I just didn't see the attached list. Okay.
Well, yeah, we won't, they'll have to get that.
What number
Okay.
is that?
Number 14. They ask for that from the assessor.
Good.
That was one of the,
But we actually had a physical list
Yeah.
with the demo addendum that has the agencies and...
Right, the way it works is that when they come in and they file their application, one of the first things that they do is they ask the assessor to provide the list of all properties that are within 200 feet of that property. The assessor generates a list. They also, every town has a list of those agencies and departments that also have to be notified, and they get the list, and then they attach the list to their application.
Okay, good. So the agencies would be included, like
But
South Orange
Don't they
Historic.
normally review the application to make sure they have the information before they give them that list? Or is that, no?
No, it's strictly based on the tax map. Whatever's within
Okay.
200 feet, and then they give you an agency list. A lot of times, the agencies aren't real, there's agencies on there that there's really no reason where you have to notice them, but everybody does anyway because the town says you have to, so that's fine.
And there's a real timing thing with those notices, too. There's a set time that they have to be sent out and, registered.
That's yet another thing we haven't quite determined.
Well, we would have to do that because I don't know if we have that timing
Well,
thing.
I have tried to operate so far in giving advice to you and acting as if this board was a land use board, all right? So until we change it otherwise, I think our policy should be the way you would have for a land use board, which is that they have to notify everybody at least 10 days prior to the date of this hearing and provide proof that they've done that. That's what you would do anywhere else, so.
What about, a little digression, what about providing documents to this board? Isn't that a common courtesy? I mean, because in this, like in the most recent hearing we had, some documents were provided just that day of or hours before.
Most boards would say, and you know, there's always a little, you can always be a little flexible on this, but most boards would say, if you're giving us anything significant, we ought to have it 10 days prior to the hearing so that we have an opportunity to review it. Things like changing the plans, something really significant. You know, whether you thought that the deed should have gotten here before that or not, you can be flexible about that sort of thing. But yeah, there should be some deadline as to when they get us information.
Mm-hmm.
On a more complicated application, you're going to want that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have a question as to whether, is there anything that we could add to this language here that would help us through what we got stuck on this evening, which is any kind of architectural renderings or style plans?
I mean, that's going to really come up on the facade. I mean, right now, the facade, the change to the facade is the only thing where that would come up, I believe.
I don't know, is it in our jurisdiction to request things that even, let's say, the planning board isn't going to, you know, when they go to the planning board for a subdivision, they don't have to show plans, they don't have, all they need to show is the required setbacks and the area that the property's going to be built in. Even though it's a concern of ours as to how it's going to be situated on the property and where it's going to be situated and what it's going to look like, I don't think we have jurisdiction, because we don't have jurisdiction over that for most properties. We only have it for demolition and for major facade changes. Other than that,
I was just going to pull the demolition.
unless we're going to, create a whole different.
Well, I think we have a general question on the demo addendum that says, what do you plan to do with this property?
Right, but when they say single-family house, you can't say, well, where on there is the house going to be? I think that could have changed their I think it could only have helped them to have that on their application, because if it would have been.
I think that our ordinance provides that when we review it, it says, consider the following matters: the setting, design, arrangement, texture, detail, scale, shape, materials, finish, color, streetscape, and related outbuildings, and consider the relationship to those characteristics to the historic, architectural, cultural, aesthetic, and significance of the historic property, structure, site, and district as well. I mean, so that we do have the authority to do it.
They could, if they would have come in with that, it might have helped them, but we can't ask them to provide that, is what I'm saying.
But one of the reasons, but we can say that we need to see it, because that's what we're here for.
Could we request like you guys would know it better than me, an architect's statement?
I mean, I kind of question the legitimacy of asking for what, supposedly could be there, and then having no jurisdiction to mandate that what was presented actually comes to fruition.
Exactly, yeah.
So
that's a problem.
Well, that's why I asked our council whether we could put something in a resolution if we did approve it.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
That's what we would have to do, and a resolution is a binding document. It's not something that you would just say, oh, well, we got it, we can do whatever we want now. It's enforceable.
Right.
I think it's a difficult question. I did put in the subdivision addendum. Well, in the demolition addendum, you have a lot of information already, but that's different because you're just asking to document what's there. Right? In the subdivision addendum, I did put at the end of number 2, any prepared architectural plan should include elevations depicting all sides of the structure. Now, that doesn't say you have to submit architectural plans. It just says if you're going to, that's what it should show.
Should you
I
add?
think it's within your purview to ask for plans at least detailed enough so that you can evaluate this criteria that Karen just read.
What number was that under?
That's on in the ordinance, that's section 9.
No, it's in the subdivision. Where did you?
Oh, I just read from the last sentence of paragraph 2, section 2.
Section 9, right?
Okay,
And maybe the way to say it is, we know you're not going to come in with, a full set of fully prepared architectural plans, but some kind of a sketch that shows what it is you're planning on doing.
And I think it would be good if they could show us with this, if they know what they're doing with the subdivision, lot place, whatever they're doing, lot placement, where on the lot is whatever they're building going. I think it just makes a difference in these, if they're building something and they're able to move it so that it's not encroaching on other properties on the lot, I think it makes a big difference rather than if they're trying to build legally but it's close to another building.
But it would help that if your argument about, or your suggestion about when you do approve it with these requirements, then it helps to formulate that.
I really think
Can
that
you
was...
say something for number 2, like that it's recommended but not mandated? Like it may help, somehow write something where it may help you in, so
Recommended that applicants submit architectural drawings, at least in sketch format, depicting the proposed structure.
Yeah,
and placement on the site.
I think it would really it would benefit an applicant if we could see, because a lot of what we're talking about is visually from the street, how a new piece of property, how a new construction is going to fit in with the total, with the neighborhood.
I don't know if I'd call it a sketch or maybe a schematic design.
Schematic.
So I think if we could just get a sense for what the applicant envisions for their property.
Absolutely, that's the whole thing.
I mean, I think to Bill's point, the items that we're supposed to discuss, we need evidence to enable us to help discuss this. So if it's, if one of the topics for discussion is the impact of the proposed change on the historical and architectural significance of the site or district, we need evidence that that's going to support that.
But I still would recommend putting it in something that binds, if we do approve it, because we don't want to approve a subdivision with a architectural drawing and then have them put up a ranch.
Well, that's why I was trying to go there at a minute, and we probably shouldn't talk a lot about this application because I don't know where it's going.
No, I'm not
I don't know where
talking
it's
about.
going next.
I'm not talking about this application. I'm just talking about any application. I
was
think
thinking
that was
about wording like something like in a resolution of an approval that says substantially similar to the sketch attached to.
I think that was the reason, and what I was going to say before is I think that was one of the reasons that this ordinance, that the Historic Preservation Commission was actually put into place in the first place, was to ensure that we didn't have that the character of our historic properties and districts weren't demeaned by putting up buildings higgledy-piggledy, wherever. And I'm not talking about anything in particular. I'm talking about the fact that there are homes, and when we were discussing the ordinance in the first place, if you remember, Amy, that was one of the things that was of concern, is that we wanted to make sure that the integrity was there.
I think it would be great if we could work in the list that that Commissioner Marla read in some way, and maybe even give them the option of, please provide at least 4 out of 6 of these things or something like that. I can't hear you. So that this is there I am.
So
It's in the ordinance. What I read is in the ordinance. I don't think that we necessarily need to recite it in the addendum, because this is an addendum which would accompany whatever they.
Let me propose something. And I'm sorry, Bill, if this got to us earlier, but if it might behoove us to sort of as a commission review these between now and the next meeting, and at the next meeting, make our proposed changes to the addendum. But you did raise a good point that we don't have an addendum on major facade changes.
Right, I'll work that out.
Okay. Is that something you would feel comfortable?
Yeah, I'll work with it.
Okay.
Draft for everybody to look at.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
I'll probably, that's the one where I'll probably look particularly for you two for input.
Not a problem.
Okay. So just Kathy, that'll be on next month's agenda to review these again. Okay.
He's good so far.
And if you need to get together while you're doing it during the course of the month, I'm more than happy to meet you at Startown with pizza.
Okay, going on to subcommittee updates. Just before we get through these, I just want to understand who's going to be speaking to each one, if we have anybody to speak to each one. So on the master plan.
You wanted me to comment? Yes. Okay. We had a meeting with not a quorum, but several of us, and we divvied up portions of the master plan. We have a good idea of how we're going to structure it, with a basic introduction and then a historic overview, as well as goals and objectives and a bit of a summary of the ordinance, as well as local landmarks that are already landmarked. And so we have a goal of having a draft to this board by April, right?
April 15th meeting, yeah.
Okay. And the next meeting of our master plan committee is?
Of the subcommittee?
Subcommittee. It's in February.
It's in February.
I noticed Kathy of it so that she'll make a public notice of it.
Yeah,
right?
I think we will have quorum, and we will have to.
We will have quorum, and we'll need a location.
Okay, can you did you send me?
I did, but I'll send it again.
No, I'll Google it tomorrow through my email.
Okay.
And then I will send a confirmation once I confirm the availability of the conference room, date and time, and I will get it noticed ASAP. We can do it electronically within 48 hours.
Oh, terrific. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just trying to see. We had proposed for February the 12th is a Wednesday night.
Okay, yes. Okay. I do remember reviewing the email. I think my question was whether or not a quorum would be in attendance. That's what I think I needed.
Yes, there will be.
The confirmation.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
On to Pump House. And I saw the notes from the minutes from last meeting. Oh, you did hear from Sal. I saw that
Yes.
response from Sal.
I printed out
Yep.
the email that I got back from him, and I think almost everybody has a copy of that. Based on the conversation that I had originally had with Janine Bauer and her advice to reach out to him, you can see my request at the bottom and then his response at the top, which I thought was very helpful. And I just wondered if you wanted me to communicate anything else back to him, or because he was interested in. Do you want me to read the?
Oh, I didn't get a copy of the email.
Sorry,
It's in tonight's materials, just I
Thank
think
you.
hard copies. Yes.
I can read it real quickly if that helps.
Got
The
one.
village is in the, good morning, Ms. Carter. The village is in the preliminary stages of the project of the pump house. And I was asking about the bridge and the River Greenway
okay.
project. Their consultant has performed an environmental study of the building and has identified asbestos and other hazardous materials in the building. We've had discussions about providing historical markers such as plaques and/or old photographs depicting the building. Because of the grade change from the east side of the river to the west side, a ramp will be provided down to grade. The ideas floated were to have historical photos mounted along the railing of the bridge and ramp where it passes the area where the pump house used to be. Another idea was to provide a small monument in the area adjacent to the ramp bridge that identifies the old building location. If the commission has other thoughts, I would be happy to present them to the Board of Trustees, Public Works, and Infrastructure Committee for discussion. Unfortunately, because of the hazardous materials in the building, we cannot provide access to the building to the public, and the majority of the materials inside must be disposed of in accordance with the current environmental regulations. Regards, Sal Renda, and he's the South Orange engineer.
So when he says access to the public, he means just to the public to get into the building, not us to look in the building, right?
The building's going to be gone.
Yeah, we can't go into the building. When they say access to public, we're the public.
Right.
We can look inside, but we can't go inside.
But the building, the plan is for the building to actually be demolished.
Come down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's very interested in hearing our thoughts on this. And I know that in a couple of the the earlier conversations that we had with the commission, we discussed ways to memorialize the site based on things that were done in the Meadowbrook area at the bottom of Floods Hill and along the river in that area, that kind of signage. So it sounds like they're also thinking in the same direction.
Sounds good.
Which I was glad to hear. Since then, I just want to bring up one other thing that relates to that area in the town. And we were actually having a conversation this weekend with a friend who reminded us, and I'm aware of this because it's very close to my property, but at one time there were Army barracks in that area also. And the friend that we were talking to, his brother, when he came back from the war, he was posted in that area until he was released from his service. And so there are still remains of old Army barracks down there. And he was reminding me of, you can still see remnants of the bases of the barrack buildings. And he also told a story about how at the time when the barracks area was being decommissioned, the soldiers were able to, they sold the buildings, and soldiers and other people, I don't know if it was open to the public, but people actually took the barrack buildings and relocated them. And in fact, there are a few of them down at the shore that people then converted to summer cottages. So there's sort of an interesting, there's kind of another history there. In addition to the pump house, we have that whole area. And I had read about this a number of years ago in some historic background in South Orange, and I wondered if we might also want to take a look into that as another component of the historic nature of this area.
So have you seen those foundations?
There are actually pieces of them that are still visible down there, but I wasn't really sure what those concrete blocks were.
Huh.
So,
interestingly, off of West Montrose Avenue, where the trolley used to go through, it's along the riverway there. There's a little street that goes parallel to Hillside, and there are little cottages there, and those were apparently also for veterans returning. There's 2 or 3 of them still back there.
Actually, I think there's about 8 or 10 back there.
There's 8 or 10?
Yeah, there's a lot of them down that little street.
So
Yeah.
are they all in South Orange? Because that street becomes West Orange
Oh, so
shortly.
maybe part of it is West Orange, yeah.
I think what's very appealing, and as long as they expect some foot traffic over that bridge to do something on the railing, that gets into perhaps more of this history, and also allows us the opportunity to show the pump house when it was in its glory, not the way it looks now.
So I'm
So do you
happy
think
to.
they would be interested would you be interested in proposing that they maybe talk about both histories?
That's what I've been thinking this week, that I think it's, especially when we have people who are still living in the community who remember this.
I wonder
and
if any
think-
has a photo. Those can sometimes be.
Any photographs or?
I'm going to have to look and see, they didn't say anything about that, but I would definitely like to look and see, and I'd also like to see if we can trace back and find out where the actual barracks were relocated to, because I think that would be another piece of interesting information. So I'd like to pursue that as part of this whole larger now pump house project.
Very interesting.
Any other updates? No, on Pump House, right, okay. Moving on to HPC website. Just real quickly, I've been circulating emails to the other members of the subcommittee, except
I have a question. The list that I have says it's just me and you and Amy.
I think I added.
Yeah, you did.
I added you
I think
accidentally.
it-
I'm
all
sorry.
the emails. That's fine.
And I was like, okay, I guess there's nothing going on.
Sorry, I
And
added somebody and subtracted one person.
Right.
Yeah, and Karen,
No,
are
it
you
was
on
on an
the
email.
master plan?
Oh,
No.
Yeah, if we
Subcommittee?
meet, yeah, so it's 3 for 3, so we don't have quorum.
Yeah.
So it's just
Okay.
us.
Okay,
Right,
so
okay.
it's just the three of us. Carolyn, do you want to be on the committee? Because then we'd have to have a quorum.
I'm not on the online committee. I'm on
Okay, good.
the master plan.
Okay, sorry about
Fine.
that. Sorry about that. But just very briefly, I had met with Alex several weeks ago, just when we were initiating this, and he basically said, whatever we want to put on there, just put up what our request is. And then when I was interested in the timing of it, I was also interested in some of the things that were on the site that actually needed to be corrected pretty soon. And one of the reasons is a colleague was interested in becoming part of the commission, and so she was looking at where to apply for it online, and there's some opportunity there. So I think in terms of just what's existing, an assessment of what should be added and updated. The thing is, the new website, who knows when it will be, who knows when it will be launched. So, my recommendation is to put new information up that we know right now on the existing site, and then when the website, when there is a new website, a new page, just transfer that information into the new page.
So can the current site be changed? Because I thought they weren't
Yes.
really making any, okay.
Yes, that was the direction.
And that was what he was saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the
Okay.
direction. Just basically submit what you want changed.
So we can actually ask them to take down the proposal to establish a historic preservation commission.
Yes, actually, there's a open source website called General Code E360.
Yeah.
That's where I go to get all the information about South Orange.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the South Orange, at least
Well-
the stuff pertaining to the ordinance. It's found there.
There is a link on South Orange's website to 360.
To get to the ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay. I just
To
haven't,
code,
I haven't found
yeah.
it yet, but I'm sure it's there. The one thing about there's a document of volunteer commissions, and we're not on there yet. So
Oh, that would be good.
so we need to be on there. There is when you do go to the volunteer, the interactive thing to volunteer for a committee, we are in there. So we are part of the drop down. So that's good.
Yes.
And we
Yeah,
specifically have one opening right now, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, we do have one opening. That's correct.
Yeah, well, that
And we have
list
alternates.
needs to be.
I thought we had an alternate opening.
In all.
Oh, we have an open position and an open alternate position.
I want to ask, while you're on this topic, you're a registered architect, aren't you?
Yes.
Right, so you should be listed as a Class A commissioner?
I don't know why that happened. At the time I joined the commission, I was a registered architect and a registered contractor.
Right, but I'm saying, but he should be a Class A commissioner, not a Class B commissioner?
But
I don't know how much it matters, but,
Do they have different terms in terms of,
yeah, well, the terms of the expertise.
no, but not only that, but in terms of usually you stagger
Yeah,
the
they're-
length of term, and that's important. That's the A, B are also for intention, so you all don't come due at the same time.
Right, because it's a new.
It's not a classification of rank. as far
Well,
as-
no, but if it,
Actually, A,
If
B, and
A
C are
is
different
design-
criteria
A
for the
is-
HBC.
it says specifically that Class A persons who are
Right.
knowledgeable in building design and construction or architecture history. Class B is persons who are knowledgeable or have a demonstrated interest in South Orange history.
Well, that's true too.
I'm not saying it isn't, I was just reading it.
But aren't we limited to how many Class A's and Class
Yes.
B's?
No, you have to have at least one of
Okay.
each Class A and Class B.
Okay.
I believe is what it is.
So, yeah, I guess on that topic, I don't know if there's anything to be done other than, I don't think there's I mean, I guess we could all be, there's no law against us all being architects, right, on the thing.
Would
so.
it have to do with how the resolution specifying what you are? If it was, your resolution said you're a Class A or a Class B, once you're reappointed, it might be different, but I believe that it does say in the resolution what your class is.
Yeah, it might require, if you were going to make that change, it might require a new resolution by the council, by the trustees.
Right.
So
Okay.
I'm not sure you want to do that just right now.
I'm not.
I just noticed it, that's
Right,
all.
right. No, I noticed it when I got the letter. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, so.
Now, we were all interviewed for these positions, but I think the village president opened interviews for all boards again. Does that include us again?
This, no, for the openings right now, the only interviewing is for the openings. When your term ends, then the village president would have the option whether he would.
I was reappointed without interview.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on the website? Anybody have any feedback?
No, I think it's a good idea to update it. There's no reason to wait.
Of course. Okay.
But I think there's a lot of updating which will overlap, which may not be within our purview. Like that volunteer list, it still lists the old clerk.
Well, I mean, I think that in terms of you talking about the existing site versus the new site?
No, I think updating the old site is good, because if we wait, we might be waiting for a long time, so
Right.
might as well just do it.
Well, I mean, I think the things we're going to be, updating are copy, images, and links, and those would be transferable to whatever format would be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So we're going to move forward with the suggestions that are here? You circulated an email, I guess that was just to me and Amy.
Yes. Okay, on to the next one, procedures and checklist. Who's on
Didn't we
this
discuss that
subcommittee?
already?
I think that's
I think
the.
Bill already
that's
covered that.
Okay. Public comment? Anyone have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn. It's my favorite time.
Second? All in favor of adjourning?
Favor.
Any
Yes.
opposed? This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.